Music is a performing art with some similarities to dramatic arts. The tango musician is someone who tells a story through music, but it is not a lofty story or an excellent speech that must be repeated word for word. In fact, the story is as important as the way it is told. Even if it's a familiar story, it is the narrator's duty to make it interesting and valid from their perspective. The stories told in tango do not originate from European aristocracy. Tango was born as a genuine expression of a newly formed diverse people. It carries the essence of that recently constructed terranium: drama, nostalgia, and the consequent sense of uprooting due to the constant transformation imposed by progress. It also embodies the cleverness and philosophy of those who have learned to navigate through it and share their experiences in a savvy manner. Tango has been refined, aged, and evolved over a century of history, driven by the competitions inherent in the emerging capitalism. It was born on the margins, expressing itself through the tools at hand, but it climbed the social ladder, making itself heard more and more. In saloons and brothels, it encountered the piano, an instrument that, together with a small ensemble, will become a fundamental voice in its typical orchestras. The tango musician developed between the academic tradition of repeating European classics and the need and demands to express oneself in a way more akin to the surrounding world. With the inherent instruments used to tell refined stories of characters from the past, they ingeniously managed to tell current neighborhood stories, adding spontaneously created elements and anecdotes that enhance their wit or deepen their drama. In this sense, the appropriation of musical elements into the language of tango and the idiomatic characteristic of the genre, particularly in the piano, present a unique and enriching perspective. Before delving into the aesthetic characteristics of the style, we will approach the elements of the musical language from a paradigm shift. Understanding the musician's role as a performing artist, whether we play in our homes for family or friends or on grand stages, we will not focus on learning a repertoire of great stories to tell, but rather on learning to tell any story well. We will use tango repertoire as a vehicle to assimilate the language. The lead sheet will be equivalent to waypoints to be developed through a language that we will gradually incorporate, rather than mere instructions for pressing keys. Playing tango will resemble more a dialogue about a passionate topic than performing a choreography with our hands on the piano. Instead of learning a scripted story down to the smallest detail, we will learn to spontaneously tell it, using a lexicon that is not inferior to a premeditated speech, with the freshness of the spontaneous and the genuine interpretation of the protagonist who embodies the story being told. The journey to develop the language of tango will lead us to the development of musicality itself. If we understand each musical idea, each phrase as a coherent dialogue in the story we want to tell, each section as a chapter, we will get used to infusing every musical gesture with intention. An accompaniment, a counter melody, a harmonic progression, a specific orchestration, a dynamic, everything occurs simultaneously and in relation to the discourse being narrated. Since music is not a concrete language, but it does have a narrative sense, we are going to resort to the most basic storytelling structure: introduction, development, and resolution. And we will extrapolate it to musical parameters in all aspects of sounds. We will encounter a dual structure with a range of nuances between its opposing extremes. and we will put them all into action in line with the musical discourse. Throughout our journey, we will address a total of 10 tangos to initially have a good general sample of the variables presented in the tango repertoire. If we observe the catalog in the sheet music from editorial, it may seem that there are many types of tangos. However, we are going to synthesize them into 4 groups only. Each tango will be approached from 2 main roles. And our language in the tango repertoire will evolve across 4 levels. Finally, each level will have 3 practice routines designed for different types of needs. If our music were magic, we will practice to become street magicians who can amaze their audience with anything, from a simple deck of cards to the coin in their pockets. And we will not settle for being a magician with just a few tricks, who can only dazzle if they have their table and top hat prepared in advance, where the slightest mistake can turn into a catastrophe. Moreover, this will not only prevent us from preparing a spectacular trick, rehearsing every detail, but we will also be able to do it better and with more confidence. So, I welcome you to the first online tango piano course. I hope it benefits you and, above all, that you enjoy the journey. If you would like to learn to play tango at the piano, make sure to check out TangoPianoSecrets.com, where you can find free materials, ebooks, and online courses.